Bhagavatam Samma Sambuddho Swagato Ayena Bhagavata Dhammo Supatipano Yasa Bhagavato Savate Sangho Dhammayang Bhagavatam Sagamang Sazangan Ime Sagari Yadarahu Arupite Abhipujayama Sadhuno Bhante Bhagava Sujira Parini Gotopi Pajima Janata Nudamba Manasa Ime Sakare Dugata Panaka Prabhute Patidannato Amma Gandhi Gadata Ekaya Sukaya Aram Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavatam Abhimadi Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Samvada Sangho Sangham Namami Dayam Buddhasa Bhagavato Bhagavaganama Karangaro Mase Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So, very good to see you all again. So please now everyone compose yourselves, sit up nicely, good straight back. Feel as though you're being suspended by a cord from the crown of your head. So you keep your body light and alert, and then you close your eyes. And when you close your eyes, you leave everything you've been doing and thinking about behind. And you remind yourselves that all you ever really have is now. It's always now. So try at least for this evening while we're together to keep your attention here and now. And we'll commence as usual by bringing to mind the Buddha, recollecting our great teacher's perfect mind. It was a mind that was absolutely clear of any kind of corruption or defilement. And not only that, but far distant, far away from any form of corruption, any kind of greed, hatred, or delusion. a quite extraordinary and truly wonderful being, perfect in knowledge and conduct, and with a mind too of infinite compassion. Now, when you contemplate the Buddha, when you even think of the Buddha or see an image of the Buddha, be inspired to do what you can to cleanse your mind too of all greed, hatred, and delusion, and free yourselves utterly of all suffering. And remember that to do this, to practice the Buddha Dhamma, is to do yourselves an enormous favor. It's a great kindness. And that should remind you of the importance of being kind and caring of yourself and of others. And also of rejoicing in your merits, seeing the good in yourself and others. And also of cultivating a mind of acceptance. Now, before we go any further, we must just again remind ourselves of the nature of our human condition. Here we are, living a life, born as human beings. And what's happening? We're getting older by the minute. It never stops. Time ceases for none of us, waits for none of us. All the time, breath after breath, we are getting older. And during our lifetime, at almost any moment, we can become unwell, catch something, break something, have an accident. It's a very precarious existence we're living. And then whatever happens and whatever we do, we're all going to die. That's one certainty we live with. And all this we must come to terms with and try to understand. And when we do, we begin to also see the true nature of things. And understanding that is vital to our freedom from suffering. But before we get that far, we have to tidy up our minds and make them fit and useful. So, make sure you're sitting up well, and quite deliberately now, gather and concentrate your mind. Bring it together. Decide not to let it go off in different directions, at least not for the next 50 minutes or so. And direct it, first of all, to your body, your posture. Your physical presence. Now remember to be quite still. Whatever happens while we're together, don't move. Now, however still you are still breathing. There's that slight movement, that almost imperceptible sensation as you breathe in and breathe out. And it might be somewhere near the upper lip. It might be over the heart. It might be the abdomen rising and falling. Whichever it is for you, wherever it is that you feel this clearly, keep your attention there now. And become mindful and aware as you breathe in, mindful and aware as you breathe out. And mindful and aware if there's a gap, a pause between the end of the out-breath and the beginning of the in-breath, or the end of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath. Stay with it all the time. Mindful and aware, breathing in and breathing out. Do remember to deal skillfully with any interruptions, any thoughts or movements of your mind. If they're slight, just try and be more concentrated on your breath. If they're persistent, if you find yourself having completely forgotten the breath and dreaming or thinking, then as soon as you're aware of what's happening, be mindful of it. Know it. Observe it. Let it go. And find the breath again. And again, do your best to keep your mind glued to each incoming breath, each outgoing breath. You've been sitting very well, very still, and very peacefully. Now continue. Stay sitting just as you are, except that while I'm speaking, while I'm talking, listen. Just make listening now your practice. Yes, we can make almost anything and everything we do a part of our practice, a part of our cultivation, and we should. We should try to be mindful and aware at all times and cultivate a mind of understanding. And that way, whatever we see, whatever we hear, we find speaks the Dhamma, has a message for us, teaches us. And we become kind of perpetual students, which is how it ought to be. Always willing and aware to learn. In this practice, in order to overcome our suffering, in order to fulfill its purpose, we need, so far as we can, to maintain a continuous mindfulness and awareness. We need to be studying ourselves, because this is where everything happens for us. Yes, I know we are living in a certain kind of world, and out there various things happen. We encounter the different kinds of weather and different people and all kinds of situations. But the experience of all of it, our world, is here within our minds and this, as it's put, fathom-long body. And so this is where we look. This is what we have to study. And this is where we will find our truth and our release from suffering. It's very tempting to want to go elsewhere to find it, to go off to this or that sacred place or this or that teacher. But if you do, you'll eventually discover that actually you don't need to go anywhere because it's all here. And this is the only place you can really look and discover the true nature of things. I remember in early days with Ajahn Chah, a monk who had been staying with him for a while went off to various teachers in Thailand and Burma. Later on, having left the monkhood, he wrote a book about it all. But when he came back to Wat Pah Pong, he said to Ajahn Chah that having been to all these places and these different teachers, he realized he didn't really need to go anywhere. And Ajahn Chah growled in response, "I could have told you that before you left." And it's true. We have a very effective way, a very effective method of not just calming and quietening our minds, not just feeling better, but also of discovering the true nature of things. It's important, though, to remember that this practice, that what you do has a purpose. I think this is very necessary. Because without that, you can easily wobble. And by wobbling, I mean doing a bit of this, doing a bit of that. And with none of it, will you really become skillful and master whatever technique or method or form of meditation you're taking up. In the first place, really and truly, we all have to do something about making our minds fit, about calming and quietening our minds. And basically, that is done by holding the mind loyal to one thing. Now, it could be anything. It could be the image of the Buddha. It could be a great idea. It could be anything. But you have to be a bit careful, because whatever you hold your mind with may affect you. And in fact, of course, as the Buddha said, when you let your mind go, and it will incline in one direction or another and then grow in that direction. So this you have to be careful of, just generally speaking. But even more so when it comes to concentrating your mind and developing your mind. So better it's something which is at least skillful, yes, the image of the Buddha, or reasonably neutral, like the breath. And the great advantage with the breath is that we have it with us all the time, wherever we go. So really and truly, at any time when you have a spare moment, or you're feeling a bit stressed, you can just contact the breath, watch the breath. Many years ago, I used to have a student who went off to work in a kibbutz and then lost all his money and ended up working in a mental hospital in Israel. And he wrote me marvelous letters. And in one of those, he described the chaos at the mealtime at which he had to help. He had to help these very disturbed patients with their eating. And he said it always helped to just stop for a minute or two before he entered that dining hall and just focus his mind on his breathing. It's a marvelous and very, very useful method to calm and quieten your mind, and to sharpen your mind, and to make your mind fit. And when we do this practice, of course, we will inevitably come across difficulties, resistances to what we're trying to do. Our minds all too often raise objections. It's almost as if They have a separate life of their own, and they don't want us to get too close. And so we find ourselves drifting, thinking about various pleasures, what we might have to eat later on, and all that, and then sometimes being quite irritated, and at others just plain dull and sleepy, even though previously we didn't feel sleepy at all. It's amazing, the smoke screens that the mind throws up to kind of prevent us from getting too close. Now, what are you going to do when this happens to you? Because you have to do something. You can't just sit there and let your mind wander all over the place or just give in to all this. You're there to work with your mind, to become skillful with your work with your mind. And that means being resolute and determined and focused. And somehow or other, dealing with these hindrances. As I said earlier, when we were sitting, if it's only very slight, just a little movement, then it's not that difficult to bring your mind back, to intensify your concentration on the breath. But then at others, it becomes persistent. And you find yourself kind of coming to, having been lost in a long stream of thoughts and feelings, and you feel awful about it, and sometimes quite angry or even annoyed with yourself. What do you do? What you do is you make use of that. You are mindful of what is happening. This is one of the wonderful things about this training, that you can turn everything to your advantage. Everything, remember, speaks the Dhamma. Everything can be used, turned to your advantage. So, your mind's wandered off, you've been rambling, you're a bit irritated by it. Right, watch it. Immediately be mindful and aware and watch it. If it's painful feelings, people are always complaining about being uncomfortable, sitting on the floor, this posture and so on, it's uncomfortable. Well, life is uncomfortable. Get used to it. But the more that you do sit like this, the easier, of course, it becomes. But then when it is uncomfortable, I can guarantee too that if you were in the most luxurious armchair, sitting still for a while, or after a while, you'd find yourself moving around, adjusting yourself, uncomfortable. It happens. So what do? You watch it. You watch that pain. Pain is a wonderful teacher. And when you can, as it were, sit back and simply observe it, what do you discover? You discover it wasn't, or it isn't, just pain. Not that kind of entity, that thing, but rather a succession of feelings. Feelings that expand and contract and move a little, one way this way, one way that way. Never still. Never really and truly a permanent experience. You discover something about the nature of things when you watch yourself. You discover the experience experience of change, of impermanence. You have an experiential understanding developing, and that is invaluable. And of course, you also discover that you are, as you watch, you're concentrating. You are actually keeping your mind reasonably focused. And then, yes, your mind comes back to the breath. And you continue with that main object of your attention. And then it moves off again. You catch yourself drifting again, bring yourself back, and so on. And all the time, you are on this great voyage of discovery. You're developing your mind and developing your insight and understanding of the true nature of things. And that's what this is all about. But do practice. Do what you can to develop your skill in this practice. So practice it often. Work with it. Do your best. And this then will take you all the way to an understanding of the true nature of things. This is what the Buddha has promised us. This is the Buddha Dhamma. And that's enough from me for tonight. So we'll sit for just a second or two longer. Focus your minds just for these closing moments on loving kindness for yourself and for everyone and everything. May you and all beings be well and happy. May you and all beings be free from all suffering. May you and all beings realize for yourselves the secure peace of Nibbana. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Bhivade Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavanto Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami. So thank you all very much for coming. Very good to see you all. I hope you have a good week and we'll meet again soon. Thank you. Good night.